Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of I'm Not a Fan Unless I Have a Podcast. I'm John Hanford, and on this episode, we've got Dave P., one of the co-founders of the King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard fan page on Facebook. That's how, thanks to that page, that's how this podcast is, attained visibility. And it's how I've gotten a lot of my guests to come on so far, and I mean pretty much all but one. Tyler from Cincinnati was the only one who hit me up via Instagram before I even announced anything on the Facebook page. But thank you to Dave and all the other co-founders and the moderators and everything. That's a great. It's a great space, and I'm really happy that it exists. It's one thing that really got me more into King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. So, I'm incredibly grateful for that page, and so we discussed, a lot of just our own love for the band, as well as a few times that, we discussed a few times that. We've each met certain band members and a bunch of other stuff. So right now I'm, the rest of these intros that I've done have usually been very close to after, like very soon after I conducted the interviews or conversations. That it's semantics, but it's not really an interview here. I try to keep this podcast as conversational and as close to something that might happen at a King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard themed bar where we're just hanging out and shooting the shit. That's my idea of a good time. And that's what I like to, have on this podcast. But all that aside, I digress. This was, it was I lost my place. Fuck, I get hung up on words. But right, so here's what I was going to say. Right now I'm recording this intro about 6 hours prior, or not 6 hours, 12 hours prior to when this episode drops. Streaming on YouTube now, by the way. I am still tripping a little bit. I had the most mind-bending mushroom trip yesterday, and it's just I'm still processing it. But I also have to record an intro since I'd forgotten to do it before, and I only just remembered now. So bear with me while I'm still just. Even though I'm not tripping, it's like I'm in the afterglow. I still feel my third eye wide open. So it's pretty wild. But basically, not to worry, this wasn't a scary trip. This was a trip that focused completely on the pillars of love and trust that pretty much hold up society. And one of my greatest takeaways is that I learned that there are really just two things fundamentally that exist: fear and love. And love is always the way. So that's my hippie shit. And I just wanted to get that out of the way. But I have been feeling especially grateful and loving and proud of myself and everybody else that's participated in this podcast with me. I just really, really humbled and grateful that I found something that I love to do as much as this. This has been a really fun endeavor for me thus far. It's been a great adventure, and it's continuing. And as I mentioned, a minute ago, we are streaming on YouTube now. So I wish I had thought to do that sooner, because then I would have been. I would have at least tried to do to make this a video podcast where there would be video footage. As of when this podcast drops, I have 13 podcasts recorded that are all ready to go that are audio only. And I've decided that for episode 14 and going forward, we're going to do these conversations, these podcast episodes over Zoom. And I think that'll be it might not enhance your experience. Maybe you're an audio person only, and that's cool. I'm not the best guy to look at, and you might not be either. So, but whatever. Some people don't give a fuck about looks, and they like the little quirky things that we got going on that make us unique. So, we're going to turn this into a video podcast in, I guess it'll probably be July, since I'm doing 2 episodes a week. But anyway, that's all that I got for this intro, which was pretty long. I usually like to keep it nice and brief, but I had a lot on my mind. Still do. Still a lot to process for me. Anyway, for you guys, we've got Dave P. coming up right here.
Hey, Dave, what's happening?
What's up? Can you hear my mic?
Yeah, you sound good.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Cool. So I guess I'm just trying to feel this out a little bit since I've had some recording issues the last couple times I've tried to do this. But I think by uninstalling and reinstalling the app, I fixed it. So bracing for good audio quality.
All right.
But yeah, it sounds good. So I guess it's interesting that like for your basic background as it pertains to King Gizzard is like you're one of the mods on the fan page on Facebook, which is kind of a big deal for Giz fans. So how did you get into that?
Yeah, not only am I one of the mods, I'm actually one of the original creators of the fan page. Yeah, me and my friend Alex. Shout out to Alex. He's the other original mod that we started because you need 2 people to start up a Facebook group. It all actually started from the King Gizzard Reddit. I think someone on there made like a thread or something, and they said, "Hey, someone should make a King Gizzard meme page or fan page or something." So it originally started out as a dank meme stash, back in the day when dank meme stashes were all the rage on Facebook.
Yeah, that sounds like 2015-ish.
Yeah, it was like end of 2016 when we started it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember those early days. It was just really small, and we just kind of shared it on the Reddit, and there's maybe like 10, 20 people, and we all just kind of goofed around, and it was a lot more, just kind of Wild West, anything goes. There wasn't really like a structured set of rules. There wasn't like a team of moderators. There wasn't really any infrastructure set in place. It was just kind of like a ramshackle or a group of people obsessing over this one really cool niche band that is kind of now, in hindsight, blown up since we started the page. Like we started it right before the Banana Flying Mecha Turtle Banana came out. So
yeah,
they had still kind of hit their stride with Nonagon Infinity, which is probably their magnum opus at this point. I would wager that bet unless they manage to like pull something else out, which just kind of redefines them. But I think that the Nonagon album is kind of like a seminal, definitive album of theirs.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think it's my favorite, but it's definitely like I have no problem saying that that's their best.
Yeah.
It's but yeah. So that's cool. So you're basically an OG, and this was your startup, and that's so cool. So yeah, I mean, like I think I joined the page in 2018 after I'd first seen them live, and yeah, it was still pretty Wild West then, and then like slowly but surely it grew even more, and so you had to submit the post first. I'm sure you have to filter through a whole bunch of bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's like one of the main things I do when I wake up. It's just like, all right, who's trying to post something? And it's like a lot of weird stuff that, is nothing to do with King Giz. And our like main rules are trying to focus the page towards King Giz. So if it's not really King Giz related, we kind of just tell people like, hey, I mean, we're trying to keep this focused because in the past we would get complaints like, hey man, why is this being accepted? This has nothing to do with the band. And there's other smaller fragment, like splinter King Giz groups, which are much more lenient. Not as many people as we have though. Like right now it says we have 100 members left until we hit 29,000, which is like a pretty big benchmark. I've been keeping track of all the members, like not all of them, but like the numbers of our fan page since we started. And sometimes I frequently share the graphs of how we grew, and you can see like there's really nice spikes whenever new albums come out because new people are introduced, and also when they go on tours because people bring their friends and they're introduced to the band. How did you get introduced to the fan page?
That's exactly what happened. I went to a show, and like at that point, like I thought, like I really liked King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I wasn't sure that they were actually my favorite band, but yeah, obviously that changed within a matter of an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who was in the audience, and she was like, and so like by the way, my background, I'm 30 now. I was 28 at the time, and like it was definitely mostly young people at the like people way younger than me that were at the show when I saw them in Brooklyn. But I met somebody there who like she was in high school in upstate New York, so like she had traveled a few hours to go see them in Brooklyn. And she was telling me about the fan page and how she thought it was a bunch of bullshit, how people were shitting on Sketches since that was her favorite album. And I was like, all right, I got to check this out. And yeah, here we are.
Nice.
Yeah. So I forget her name, but shout out if she is listening.
Yeah. I'm glad that the page has spread that way. Like the only really marketing I've ever done for the page is like sometimes on Facebook events that the band or a venue puts out. Like, they'll put up like a Facebook event for the show. And sometimes in the comments, I'll go and be like, hey, do you like King Giz? Well, come like geek out with your fellow fans. And I'll like post the link to the fan page. But I've only did that like a few times. But otherwise, it seems like everything has just been kind of word of mouth. Or people, I don't know, I guess maybe people like typed King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard on YouTube, on Facebook, and they just see what comes up. And since we have a ton of people in our group, it's probably one of the first things that pops up in search. So they just they join. But it's cool how it all spread. Cool. It all started just like word of mouth.
Yeah, totally. So how did you first discover King Giz?
So I told the story of how I got into King Giz on the other podcast, the Gizzverse podcast, which I actually also recorded a short segment for earlier today. So I'm happy that I'm like part of two podcasts in one day. But I actually got that story wrong going back. I was like, oh, wait, that's actually not how I got into them.
Oh, shit. So we're getting the real story on I'm Not a Fan Unless I Have a Podcast.
Which is an amazing name, by the way. When I first saw that, I'm like, how is that a King Gizzard podcast? And then I had to like reread it. I'm like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah, no, I just named it after their patently worst song.
It's I love that song. I just love how it's so perfect. So
it's one that I always have to skip, but it's just with this opportunity, it seems.
But it's hilarious because it comes after one of the best King Gizzard songs on the album.
Yeah.
So how did I come? I go through like phases of music where I'm really big into certain bands, and then I'll like move on and kind of like find a new obsession. So the sort of psych rock train kind of chased after me first with like I've always been a diehard Beatles fan since like I was a kid, because that's like all I listened to when I was a kid. But I like really found an affinity for like Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's, their psychedelic era stuff. And so I was like, I like this like psych music. It really speaks to me. So then my friend in college showed me Tame Impala, and I was like, holy fuck, this is amazing. And so I got really big into Tame Impala. And then one day I was sitting at home. I was reading an issue of Rolling Stone magazine, believe it or not. And I was just like, they have like a section on like the summer's hottest or something. It was like hottest pop band, hottest blah, blah, blah. And I was just like skimming through it. And I don't remember what exactly the title was, but it was like hottest like Australian band or hottest like psych band or something. And there was like a little tiny blurb section about King Gizzard, and it was like this 7-piece band, like who uses flutes, like just put out their like whatever 8th album or 7th album, and it's like called Paper Mache Dream Balloon, and it's like, and I was like reading about this, I was like, whoa, this sounds like a really cool band. I should probably check them out. And because I had also remembered, like, when I was listening to Tame Impala and stuff on YouTube, sometimes King Gizzard stuff would pop up in the recommendation section in the bottom. So I would see that, and I think remember once I clicked on it, and then I listened for like 5 seconds, and I was like, oh, this doesn't really sound like what I would be into, and I just kind of clicked away. But then after I read that article, I went back and I started listening again. And I don't know, it just clicked with me that time. And I remember getting into Paper Mache and I'm in Your Mind Fuzz were the first two albums that I first got into. And this was like maybe end of 2015, early 2016. So this was before Nonagon came out. So I got into them and I started listening to their albums. And then I think once Nonagon hit, I was just like, okay, this is phenomenal. Like, there's something is going on with this band and I can't explain it. And that's kind of where it all began.
Yeah, that is so enviable. like to discover King Giz just before Nonagon. Like, imagine you're just like, I'm just trying to picture this. Just like, okay, so you've got Mindfuss, you've got Float Along, Fill Your Lungs, and then all of a sudden it's in, like, if Paper Mache is what gets you into it, it's just like, all right, hey, new album. Does this sound anything like the last one? Fuck no. It's
yeah. I mean, still to this day, Mindfuzz is my favorite because I think it hits all of the notes that King Gizzard sort of exemplifies. You have the really fat, like the Mindfuzz medley, which is, the hard hitting, like, long track, which and it all kind of flows into each other. And on the back end of the album, you have the slow jams, which are some of my favorite King Gizzard tracks, just because of how beautiful and, like, I don't know, just tripped out they are. So it's got everything in it.
Yeah, I definitely feel it with Mindfuzz, which is weird because, like, that was an album that I didn't get into until probably about, like, almost a full year of listening to them, just because I have Spotify, and for the longest time they had a bunch of skipping tracks. I'm just like, well, if there are any skipping tracks, I'm not listening, which is it's so asinine. It just goes to show how OCD I am. But
yeah, I think they fixed them, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, they did, and which is great because, like, I in an effort to get more into Mindfuzz, I decided to purchase the vinyl just so I could get the drop card, and then also start a vinyl collection.
Yep.
But yeah, it was. But yeah, once I saw it got fixed, I was like, all right, that's really cool, and I love that they went and added Eyes Like the Sky and Corridors finally. Yeah, it's really cool. Like now I don't know if I need anything more from them.
Right. I'm very envious of fans who were into them from day one. Like, I can't.
Oh my god.
Fans who knew them since, like, the 12 Bar Brews days. I just can't imagine how they feel. They just see their this little tiny band from Victoria just blow up into this worldwide phenomenon. It must make them cry, or I don't know. I'm sure there's some out there who are bitter, who are like, oh, look, they went mainstream. But I'm sure that most of them are super happy and supportive of them, and are just like, they can't believe it,
Yeah, I mean, I anybody who says they've gone mainstream can seriously go fuck themselves, because they're still independent. They're doing fucking everything for the for the local scene. Like, it's there is nothing super mainstream about them, in my opinion. Like that is so, like, tacky.
Well, yeah,
but no. So one of the reasons I started this podcast was to sort of fill the void of the marathon shows and the ensuing tour. Were you planning on going to any or all of the marathon shows?
I was not. Yeah, like, I live in Massachusetts, and I kind of have this I have a job that kind of keeps me here, so I don't have a lot of time to, like, go, or money really to, like, fly across the country. I would have loved to, but I was going to wait for them to come back to this coast. And this round, the closest show to where I live is probably, like, New York, or Washington. But I saw them super recently. I actually saw them on my birthday, really. In, like, last summer,
cool.
on their, their like Infest the Rat's Nest tour. So I'm good to like wait until they are ready to tour again before seeing them again. But of course, if they stopped by, in Boston or Providence or whatever closer, I would definitely go see them. But this time I was like, I don't know if it's worth it, like the time and the money to go out and to see them again so soon after I just saw them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Just every time I see them, I'm just like, okay, take me back. And it gets to be sort of a problem, where I'm just like, all right, that's not that bad of a drive. And
how many times have you seen them?
So I've seen them 5 times.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah, I know that they do multiple shows on the West Coast area, so it's very easy. In the East Coast, it's a little bit more sparse. So
yeah, I mean, because the first time I saw them was when they did the three shows at Brooklyn Steel. So I went to the first and third shows, which were just insane.
Yeah, I was gonna go to one of those, but then I decided not to. It's weird.
Oh man, you got to reevaluate your decision making. But
yeah, I know. I was just like, I'm gonna have to drive all the way from Boston down to to New York, and I don't know anything about parking, and I'm gonna have to drive all the way back. I'm gonna be exhausted. I was just like, I'm just gonna stick around because what really tempted me was there was a guy named, you've probably heard of Mystery Jack before?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, hey dude, like if you come, I'll introduce you to the band, blah blah blah. I'm gonna show up super early, and that was very tempting because at that point I had never met the band before. I had only seen them once. But then when they came up to Boston, I stayed around after the show, and I met all of them. Pretty much all of them. So I was like happy to like not make that trek just to see them because I had met all of them. And it's a really, really surreal experience to meet the guys that are kind of like your heroes and to realize how humble and chill they are. And yeah, after I remember after the second time I saw them, I was like, Stu, I have like gifts for you. I have like a book that I want to send you. And he's like, oh, cool. Actually, he was kind of weirded out. He was like, what kind of book was it? I think he was worried that I was going to send him like Nazi propaganda or something. It was really weird. He was like, what book are you sending me? I was like, oh, just some science fiction. And he like a look of relief kind of dropped his face. And he was like, oh, okay. I was like, I hope he wasn't thinking that I was going to send him some like porn or shit. Like, I don't know. So by the time
or like maybe a Bible.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was like, I was going to send him some like sci-fi or something. Because I know they really dig sci-fi. So it didn't end up going to the Brooklyn show. So I had those books and I don't remember what I did with them. I think I might've gave them to someone, but then, at some point I just went on, the Australian version of Amazon and I just shipped, I had another set of books shipped to right directly to Flightless. So it's like, all right, I'm going to just write Stu McKenzie. I don't know if he's going to get it or not. And I'm just going to ship it to Flightless. So I had it shipped to Flightless. And then when they came back in, this past summer after the show, I was like, I want to make sure that Stu got my book. So like I walked up to Stu and he's like, hey, do you want me to sign anything for you? I'm like, no, I just wanted to ask you if you ever got the books that I sent you. He was like, books? I was like, yeah, I sent you like a bunch of books by Frank. It was like a book of short stories by Frank Herbert, who I know that Stu really admires. And he was like, oh yeah, I got that book. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. And he was like, you're a legend. And I was like, what? No, you're a legend. It was like so surreal. I was on my birthday too. I just fucking I felt like I was gonna cry. Knowing that he got the gift, which is like enough for me to know, you know.
Yeah, one thing I really like about them is how accessible they are. They're pretty good about waiting, or about people waiting after the shows to meet them and stuff. Which unfortunately I haven't been able to do yet. Just like the first times I saw them, I was like, I don't really know if I want to wait around just to get a picture and stuff. And also I was on mushrooms and but it was funny because before that last Brooklyn Steel show, I had just taken mushrooms with my girlfriend at the time, and so we decided to get a pre-show meal at this Vietnamese place that was around the corner from the venue. So we're just there, and like once we put in our order, her mushrooms kick in. Mine are like still taking a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we're just sitting down waiting, and then I see Cook come in, and I'm just like, that's fucking cool.
Nice.
And followed by Lucas, and then a bunch of guys from two guys from Animal and the Sniffers, and then Jamie, long Polish name, Sublation on Instagram. So they all came in, and I was just like, okay, gonna play this cool. I'm gonna get a picture with them, but I'm gonna just be cool about it. So once our food was ready, and they said, all right, let's I went up and paid for it. I told my girlfriend, okay, so here's what's gonna happen. I know you're tripping right now, but I'm gonna go sit next to the guys, and you're gonna take a picture. Think you can handle it? She's like, yes. So I get up, and I say, hey, sorry to bother you guys. I'm a huge fan. I'm gonna get out of your hair real quick. Would you mind if I get a picture with you guys first? And they're just like, oh yeah, that's totally cool. So just like, all right, let's get the picture. My girlfriend walks around, comes up behind us, and I'm just like, what are you doing? She was like, I have no idea. So I was just like, okay, what's gonna happen is you're gonna walk across to the other side of the table, get your phone out, and take a picture of all of us, okay? And this is putting the guys in a terrible position because they're just like, what is happening? What's unfolding right now? Is this some kind of domestic dispute? And then I explained, like, guys, sorry, bear with us. Her mushrooms just kicked in. Cook goes, oh, fuck yeah. So it was just the best thing. And then, like, I just got this super, like, random picture, just like I'm sitting at a table with Cook, with Cook and Lucas and Gus from Amel. So it was just like the coolest picture. And sure enough, like, I started tripping immediately after it was taken.
Nice.
But yeah, that was just insane. But yeah, I still have yet to meet the rest of the guys, and I honestly am afraid to, just because I know that whatever interaction I have won't quite measure up.
Yeah. Awkward interactions are always like, you don't want to have one, but you know that it's better. It's probably better than like what half the people are doing anyways.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I like anything that's interesting, anything that's like out of the ordinary. I'm all about that, which is kind of like why I'm such a fan of them in the first place. But but yeah, so there's been a lot of talk about and they've been teasing the fact that they're going to be releasing new stuff pretty soon. What do you think is in store?
Well, I mean, if we're going off of just like what they talked about on their AMA, it sounds like more funky, microtonal, polyrhythmic stuff is going on. And did you see the thing that Cavs posted on his Instagram?
I did see that.
Yeah, it was pretty sneaky of him to not include any sound, but just show the waveform so that people could like look at it and just kind of wonder, I wonder what it sounds like. But who knows? It might not even be King Gizzard. It might be something else that he's working on. But I don't know if he's part of any other groups.
It would be insane if Cavs just decided to start a solo project out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And just threw in even more crazy time signatures and and different changes, like just like a little ribbing of Stu.
That would be nuts. What I really want King Gizzard to see, I don't know if they'll ever do it. I remember one of the things that made me fall in love with the band was Stu's promise to learn a new instrument every single year. And put a new instrument that he learned on his albums. I'm not sure if that he actually did that for the past two albums. I don't know if he did that for Fishing for Fishies. Definitely not for Rat's Nest. It just sounded like a standard rock array for Rat's Nest.
Yeah.
But maybe he's learning something in his spare time. I don't know. I really want to hear an album with some didgeridoo on it. That's not just because they're Australian, but I really think they could do some sort of follow-up to like Polygon Dwanaland, where it's just kind of very primal in a sense. And I feel like the didgeridoo is kind of like a primal tribal instrument. And if they focused on using tribal instruments, maybe they could come up with a concept album about like what their version of an early Earth looks like, and just like would kind of chronicle dinosaurs and natives and all these interesting people on this kind of primitive Earth with all these cool tribal instruments. I think that would be really cool. That's what I thought Polygon Dwanaland was going to be. But it turned out to be something else. And I love it's still a great album, but I was like, oh, it would be really cool if Polygon Dwonderland had these like cool tribal elements to it.
Yeah, that. I mean, I would love them to do. I mean, looks like we are going to get some more polymetric stuff from them pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
But assuming that Cavs wasn't just fucking with people, but yeah, it was. I guess so. How many times have you seen the guys live?
I've seen them 3 times. I saw them twice in Boston. The first time was like their Flying Microtonal Banana tour where they had Flying Microtonal Banana was out. The second time I think was it was like I think it was the beginning of 2018 or mid 2018. So they had all of their albums out at the time. So they were jamming on some Murder of the Universe. They didn't do any sketches when I saw them, but they did all their, they had stuff from all their albums. They played The Wheel. And then I just saw them this past summer for my birthday, which was like they were playing Rat's Nest and some Fishy songs.
Yeah. What's been your favorite song, if you have one? Do you have a favorite song that they've played live that you've seen?
Oh man. Whew. I don't know. I had a lot of fun during the Open Water jam that they played the first time I saw them.
Oh yeah.
The second time I saw them, they played Sleep Drifter, and there was like a giant like whirlpool pit kind of opened up in the middle of this cool kraut jam. And then recently when I saw them, I don't know. The 2 times I saw them, they played their whole Crumbling Castle suite, like, from Crumbly Castle all the way through to like Muddy Water and everything in between. And that's just such an epic piece of instrumentation.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I really can't think of a favorite.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad answer. It's just something that I've been wondering because like I've seen them 5 times and not once have they played Head on Pill anytime that I've seen them.
Yeah.
And that's like sort of my my Great White Buffalo, it's which is like kind of the main reason I wanted to go to like I have tickets for all 3 marathon shows. I had to see Head On.
Yeah. Guaranteed they would have played it at least one of those.
Oh yeah. Probably, I would imagine they would have played it at both Berkeley and one of the Red Rocks shows, but yeah, it was. I mean, that's just one of the best ones. And then the one that I have actually seen live that just blew my mind was the second Polygon Dwonderland suite with Inner Cell, Loyalty, and Horology. When they went into that at the Greek Theater in LA last year, that just blew my mind because, Joey introduced it saying like, yeah, we've never played these before on this side. So, let's give it a shot. And then I was like, oh my God. Cause you realize like when they go into that live, you're getting such it's a different experience from listening to it on the record. Like I always thought it was an interesting piece of music, but to actually see it played live it just totally changes how you process it. But have there been any songs that you've seen live that were better, like significantly your opinion changed from the album version?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest ones is Billabong Valley. I mean, it's pretty good on the album version, but when you're listening to that song live and they're just jamming out, and people are around you are dancing and going crazy, it's such a great, fun social track to be listening to live. I think it translates way better. I know that a lot of their tracks translate way better live than on their albums. But I don't know. For me, I definitely not Sleep Drifter. Sleep Drifter is good live too because they do like a jam. They do like the ending jam first, and then they go back to the beginning. But Billabong Valley, it's something totally different.
Yeah, no, I that's been a pretty consistent answer, I think. Because that definitely changed my opinion of that song. Yeah, I mean, Billabong is such an interesting piece of music because it's just like it's right there. It's in the middle. It's sort of like this. It's almost like an interlude on Flying Microtonal Banana because it's just such a subdued song, just following Sleep Drifter. It's just like, all right, here I am asleep. It's like almost like a dream of this bushranger.
Yeah.
I just love that transition. But I would actually have to disagree with you on Sleep Drifter. I think that the album version is just the best, simply because I love how it starts, and when they do it live, playing the playing that ending jam first, I'm just like, all right, this like lacks the same gravity.
Yeah,
but that's just my me being a real nitpicker.
Yeah, and they're both amazing versions for different reasons. It's just like live, I feel like the jam, I don't know, I love long psyche jams, so like especially, I don't know, like when Murder of the Universe live, like they have this, they give no fucks. They don't care if you're a new fan or an old fan. They're just gonna play a 5-minute song of a robot talking about exploding and just go hard on their instruments while the robot voice is just talking about exploding and vomiting. And I don't personally, I'm like, I don't care if you're like a noob who's just like, oh my god, I heard this band is like psych rock, like Tame Impala, let's go see them, and then you just get weirded out by this band. It's just like,
Yeah, I like, first of all, when they did that, when they started playing Murder of the Universe live, that just like blew my mind. I didn't think that they would ever,
yeah, neither did I.
mean, it's not, yeah, it just seemed like that track only existed just for the sake of the album. Like it didn't seem like that would ever translate.
Mm-hmm.
But of course they just fucking blow my mind again.
Yeah, my favorite instance of that was if you go on YouTube and you look up the show that they played recently in, I think it was Philadelphia. They played that right after Acarin. So like instead of going into that like EDM rave part, Acarin ends and it just goes into Murder of the Universe. And
yeah,
on their visuals they had a bunch of like foggy clouds, and then as the Hantumi starts to talk, the clouds start to disperse and you see the lyrics, the robot's words start to like come on the screen, and you're just like, oh my god, this is genius.
Yeah, and somehow I missed it completely being on YouTube, like the Murder of the Universe suite, like that whole music video starting with Digital Black. Like I didn't somehow I just didn't know that existed until I saw it live, and then I went home and I was like, okay, I gotta look this up. But yeah, that's just a crazy video because having subtitles in the background at a live show, I had like that was such a foreign concept to me, and it just worked so perfectly. Like it really drove all of it home.
Yeah.
But yeah, God, that's so cool. Yeah, I actually haven't seen that Philly show, but I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, they have a lot of really, really good live shows. Recorded in full. Sometimes the venue actually has like professional camera set up, and they will record the entire set. I think at least 2 or 3 Philly shows are recorded in their entirety, and it looks like a pretty professional camera. It might not be, but it looks like very well done camera in Philly.
Yeah. Well, and then also like Mystery Jack recorded their Milwaukee set where finally they gave Cook a mic,
mm-hmm.
and he did Down the Sink, yeah. And that was just so cool. That whole show was excellent. Except for that technical difficulty where they couldn't play Murder of the Universe because Hantayumi wasn't working.
Oh.
But I don't know if you caught that part, but yeah, it was interesting to see how they handled technical difficulties because
yeah,
they're just like, all right, this didn't work, so they just went into a different song. Like I think they did Planet B. It was just something they were well versed
mm-hmm.
in. They could just jump right to, and obviously gets people going again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's see. So we're gonna start wrapping this up pretty soon. But I guess how effective have you been in converting like other friends to becoming fans?
I would say that the band is kind of like I don't know.
or first of all, have you tried, or has it like even felt necessary to
So
you?
the only people I've actively tried, it's kind of hard to explain. Yeah, I do. Like I do here and there. I definitely converted my roommate. He's been my friend since elementary school, and
Mhm.
I think I showed him a bunch of music videos at first, and he was like, "Oh, this sounds really cool." But then I took him to a show, and that kind of was like he was like, "Holy crap, that was amazing." But he's a fan, but he's not as big of a fan as I am. My girlfriend really likes a lot of their albums. I think we watched parts of Chunky Shrapnel together. She was doing some work, but we did watch Chunky Shrapnel together, and
Nice.
yeah. But she's into the more like she's into like the river and paper mache and fishies. She's into the more like relaxed stuff. She's like, I don't know if I would ever go to a show. She'd probably get like super freaked out if she ever was caught in the middle of a mosh pit because she's like this tiny little thing. But I was like, oh, you don't have to. You can just stand towards the back, and I don't know. But I've taken her to see a bunch of shows. I'm slowly converting her to psych rock because before she's kind of just into like, you know, soft stuff here and there. But I try to explain this band, and explaining it is really hard to do because if you show someone one song or one album that someone will say, oh, that's what they sound like. But it's like, no, they don't have one sound. They try their hand at everything, but they have their own little flavor. Like when you listen to it, you're like, this is Giz, but it's not, it's like, oh, it's country western, but it's Giz. Or like, oh, it's microtonal Turkish music, but it's Giz. Or it's Metallica flavored with Giz. They just have this weird flavor that they like to infect all their music with, and it's really undescribable. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a obsession that I've had. Have you had a lot of success in converting people?
Oh, hardly any. It's like I really question a lot of my friends' taste.
Yeah,
but
it's this
yeah.
album. Their sound is kind of a lot more fitted to people who like listening to albums as a whole, versus like someone who likes a bunch of singles, which are kind of slapped together. Because a lot of King Gizzard's music makes sense in the bigger context of the story, or like the Gizzverse, if you believe that exists. But they release stickers which say Gizzverse confirmed, so it's got to exist, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like one of these sort of accidental things. Like I think it's the truth is somewhere in the middle.
And there's fans actively who are like, no, there's no Gizzverse. They're just laughing at you. They're just taking the piss out of it. They're like, there's no such thing. They're just making fun of it. We're like, well, I think they like the fact that the fans are so like creative and unique in that trying to make this whole like universe and link all the albums together in some strange cosmic way.
Yeah, but at the same time, like there are so many callbacks in all the different, songs and albums. Like I don't know when people first started talking about there being a Gizzverse. Like, was that before all the 2017 albums, or?
I mean, people noticed. I think people noticed, like, oh, if you look at the mountain on the cover of Nonagon, it's the same exact mountain as the cover of the Mindfulness album. So
Yep.
I think that was the first inkling that people got in that there's something connected. I think that was the first kind of hint that there's something bigger than just a bunch of albums strung together.
Yeah. Well, and then they also used the
Hot Water.
Hot Water and Trapdoor. Or wait, no, I guess he used Trapdoor with Balvin.
Yeah, they played Hot Water in a Robot Stop.
Yeah. Yeah, and then but then also, like, since I recently taught myself inner cell and guitar, and I know I said I was going to wrap up soon, but I really want to get to this. When I taught myself inner cell and guitar, and like I actually finally learned the lyrics, it was just like, oh wait, they're just talking about the people vulture. It's just like it's like meet with me in the dark on the street. They will start believing. It's just like look for me with a beak, cloak adorned, scent of leaves, and it's just like, all right, clearly that's what they're talking about.
I actually thought that the cloak and the beak was more of a callback to a plague doctor than a people vulture. But I mean, of course, because plague doctors wore the masks, and they would fill the masks with sweet smelling leaves and flowers and stuff to avoid the bad vapors of like bodies infected with the plague. They thought that this is going to ward off the plague, so they would put these doctors would wear these masks with nice scents within the beaks of their mask.
The beak?
Yeah, that's what I think. But again, anytime anyone argues about the Gizzverse, I remember someone, I think it was Stu, said the Gizzverse is a multiverse, and technically in a multiverse, anything is possible. So technically, any theory that you can think of about the Gizzverse is correct in some way, because in a universe of infinite possibilities, you can't be wrong.
Yeah.
So that's my default answer. I'm like, you can think whatever you want, but in the end, if it's a multiverse, then anything's possible.
All right, I think that's a really good way to end this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like that explanation, and that makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, that's super cool. So yeah, the Gizzverse is a multiverse. That's fucking awesome. Hey Dave, thanks so much for coming on and approving my post.
Oh, thank you, John. Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun. I hope that you have fun talking to the other Giz heads within our page. I'm very curious about what they have to say, and I hope that they are, if they're not part of the page yet, that they join. But I think that most of the people who want to be part of the your page or your podcast are already within the page. But I'm always, like, us mods at the page are always working hard to improve it. So if anyone wants to hit me up and give me suggestions, let me know. Tomorrow's Fan Music Friday. We're going to see some cool fan-made music posted by our very talented musicians within our page. And we're just going to keep chugging along and keep enjoying this awesome, wacky band that we all fell in love with.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thanks again, Dave.
For sure.
Appreciate it.
See ya.